Yeah, a couple years ago, like I started the podcast and it was impossible, man, like to get it out there. My cousin who had built like the first versions of our website, she was like having to do everything to get the podcast up on the website and get them distributed because I don't know much about computers. And I mean, it was challenging to say the least. And then maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, these companies started coming out. I think Podbean is one. Anchor is the one I use.
Okay.
They're completely free services.
Yeah.
You just upload it just like you would a picture to Facebook, and they distribute it everywhere for you. So we're on 10 platforms, I think, 8 or 10 platforms all over the place, and they give you stats, and I can see like how many people listen on mobile versus, their computer versus Apple versus Android, where out in the country.
Okay. So you can get some of that information. Yeah.
But having said that, I listen to Joe Rogan podcast a lot.
Yeah.
And he just had this guy, I forget his name, but he's like the inventor of podcasts. Like back in the 90s when the internet came out, like he put audio on the internet, and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And he has a nickname called the Podfather, right?
Okay.
And so he was talking about like no matter what anyone tells you, there's no way to know who's listening or how many people. Like you can get some idea, but in the reality of things, like you're never fully going to know.
Right. You're not going to, but you can tell the difference between 100 or 10,000 anyway,
Yeah.
Right.
I guess. I don't know, man. I mean,
maybe kind of see what level you're at. I mean,
yeah, it's definitely increased. We went like first month or two, like 30 people, then it jumped up to like 80. Now we're cruising at like 150.
Yeah.
And that's in the first week of the episode. People go back through and listen after the fact, months later. So obviously it's growing at some point, some level. And I'm getting contacted more from people that are like, we want to be on and, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's all that you can hope for.
Yeah,
you got to push through some of the struggles in the beginning, right? And,
Yeah, for sure, man. So it's fun. I enjoy it. If I could sit here and talk to people all day, I'd do that.
Right.
It's a blast.
Right.
I learned so much about different people's businesses and honestly, one thing I've learned is that like I could do that. I mean, struggle is struggle.
What people are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a matter of what direction you're going to take yourself in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just whatever path you choose, everybody's got to put their head down and grind and build something. And whether it's mushrooms or beer or whatever it is, nothing's overnight. Nothing's easy. You just got to keep pushing.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes you see those people who have arrived and you're like, oh, there's, it's so simple, but they went through that too.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. And some arrive sooner than others, but everybody still has to work. Yeah. Yeah, man. So, I mean, we're sitting here with Casey is the name of the business Fruit of Fungi?
Fruit of the Fungi.
Of the Fungi. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's a little play on the fungus. The mushroom is similar to like the fruit of a tree, like an apple of the tree, right? Yeah. Most people all they see is the mushroom.
Right.
The fungus or the mycelium is what lives in the wood or lives underground or, there's miles of this stuff in a square inch of soil and you just don't see it.
Yeah.
And so the mushroom that we're selling is really just the fruit of the actual fungus. And so that's where that comes from. Yeah. And it kind of rolls off your tongue. So that's why we picked it.
Yeah. Is it kind of, like if you're growing apples, you're really focused on like the tree and how it looks and, throughout the
Absolutely.
Year. Is that the same?
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah. We really focus on substrates and strains of different mushrooms and how aggressive they are and how well they colonize. And so, just like growing carrots, if your soil is great, your odds of getting a great carrot go exponentially up, right? Yeah. So we're focused on substrates and strains and all the details, temperature and humidity and all that kind of stuff to make them colonize that substrate well and quickly.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you can, there's always details to take care of, but the other end, a lot of the details are taken care of if you have a nice, healthy mycelium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mushrooms, it's not just like finding a log and then like putting it in darkness.
No,
there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll start from the beginning because I imagine most people are thinking, dark caves and such. Right. And so you've got two basic types of mushrooms in the edible world. You've got your buttons and portobellas.
Okay.
Which decompose soils.
Okay.
Right. And you've got the really buttons, portobellas, cremini, baby bella. They're all the same strain or the same species, different strains harvested at different stages.
Yeah.
And then you've got varieties that grow on wood.
Okay.
Which is what we grow.
Gotcha.
So things like shiitakes and oyster mushrooms and lion's mane and hen of the woods and reishi's mushrooms and all those, the industry would call them specialty mushrooms.
Yeah.
That's what we grow.
Okay.
And so you think of, like, ecologically, the tree falls in the woods.
Yeah.
Our mushrooms colonize the tree, break down the tree.
Right.
Those the buttons and portobellos, they colonize what our mushrooms have already broken down, the soil, break it down further.
Okay.
So primary, secondary decomposers.
Yeah.
So we grow those specialty mushrooms. Probably as we talk, why we grow those will probably come out a bit. But so we basically, what we do is we take sawdust. We get truckloads of it from sawmills. Simple as that. We mix in some supplements. Can be brands. Can be soy. Some different nitrogen supplements. And then we sterilize everything. So basically, getting rid of everything that's in the substrate.
Yeah.
And then in a clean environment, so we've got a room with a HEPA filter, we take that sawdust out of the sterilizers and add our cultures.
Okay.
So whether that's shiitake or blue oyster or golden oyster or whatever.
Yeah.
Seal up those bags and then incubate them. They'll grow. The mycelium will grow, and then they'll grow off of that bag. You put them in the right conditions, right temperature, right humidity, right oxygen levels, and they'll grow right out of that bag.
How detailed do you have to be in that? I mean, you have to be like within a degree of something?
No. A lot of it depends on the species. But I would say overall, you have a temperature for incubating when it's actually growing in the bag, digesting that wood, gathering the resources to actually grow a mushroom. And then you've got temperatures and humidity for actually growing a mushroom. And, 5 to 7 degrees is kind of a range.
Yeah.
They incubate at a higher temperature. They grow mushrooms at a lower temperature. And some varieties will grow at a bigger range. Some like a really small range. Some like it warmer. Some like it cool. Some can do both.
Yeah.
It's just like growing. Whether you're growing a shiitake or a maitake is, you're growing carrots or parsnips, right? I mean, they all have little details that things are different.
Yeah.
Some of the things are the same, but it's like growing different types of vegetables.
Yeah. All right. So the question I'm sure at everybody that's listening to, like everybody that's listening right now, the question on their mind is, why in the hell did you choose to get into mushrooms?
Yeah.
I find it fascinating. I mean, like, I really do. Like, thinking about, the person who kind of made mushrooms, made me aware of them was Mike Brown.
Okay.
And now Mike's at the Fish Fryer, I believe.
Okay.
And like around the time we first got started, he was at Redfields, just, downtown
Okay.
hotel restaurant. And somehow we had gotten invited out there to like check it out. And Mike was putting out great food out of there and really doing a great job. And come, I believe, the springtime, all of a sudden his Instagram is him out foraging like every single moment that he could for these different mushrooms in the area. And that's really when it like was like, oh, I wonder, what does this taste like? And
was he making mushroom powders and putting powders on stuff?
he may have been. It kind of sounds like, because he's,
Yeah. Okay.
he'll go after it for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll really go after something.
Yeah.
It just seemed like, especially like knowing his Instagram, like seeing his Instagram, if he was like going after something, he was obsessed with it, And so he was definitely going after like foraging a lot of mushrooms in the area. So that was the first time where it was really like, oh, okay, well, I wonder what that tastes like and what's the difference,
Sure.
Those questions really ended the entire search for me. My curiosity was piqued, and then that was it. I didn't really go after much of it from there.
Right.
Unless I was at a restaurant that was like had something on the menu,
Yeah.
So what made you get into mushrooms?
So that's a good question, and just like there's a lot of reasons. Just like we were discussing before about choosing what path you're going to go down. I mean, it took us a while to choose that path, and I have a biology and ecology background.
Okay.
Kind of on the tail end of being educated, I took some agriculture classes. Just I needed something to take, and really kind of planted a seed. And it took a little while to really come to anything, but I spent some time in zoos working with birds.
Oh, that's cool.
But at the same time, I spent some time in retail, selling the foods that I'm growing now.
Yeah.
But always kind of had a desire to do some sort of agriculture, but what that looked like, I didn't know. And so we moved up to Lebanon, spent some time in Utah and Connecticut, and actually I'm from Chittenango, so grew up in this area.
Yeah. Your wife's name is Christy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
She
Christy. She grew up in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yep. Still has some family, so we both have some family up here.
Yeah.
My parents are here. So that was part of the reason we came back. But bought an old farm, bought some land with the desire to farm.
Yeah.
But not really sure what that looked like. And that was about 15 years ago. It took us about 10 years to mold that into something.
Yeah.
I had some experience with mushrooms. I worked on a farm after school for a summer.
Okay.
They had some. One of the ways that you can grow mushrooms is you take that same mycelium that we were talking about and you put it in a fresh cut log.
Okay.
And then over a year or so, it'll grow throughout the log. Mushrooms will grow right out of the log. Kind of a wild crafted, a real easy, natural way to do it. You stick them right out in the shade. You don't need any big infrastructure.
Yeah. You like split the log in half?
No.
Oh,
nope.
okay.
You want the bark to keep the moisture in it.
Okay.
It's kind of the opposite of firewood.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
want fresh, moist wood. So I had some experience with that. Some experience growing them, bringing them to a farmer's market, selling them.
Yeah.
So we did different things. We had some pigs, which was an adventure. And we did some vegetables, some baked goods and such, but we did the mushrooms as well. And this was all kind of part-time on the side.
Yeah.
And the mushrooms did fairly well. At that time, there's probably 6 to 10 other farms in the state doing something similar to what we're doing.
Okay.
And so this was probably 10 years ago, and more like 12 or 13 years ago. But there wasn't really mushrooms to speak of, so it was kind of
Yeah.
a new thing, and people were excited about it. And so, from a business standpoint, it was something that we could sell. It's something that we could set our price on,
Yeah.
right? And so that was intriguing. And so for a while, it was just a kind of a side thing. We had all these logs. We had like thousands of them in the woods. We were, I'd spend 2 or 3 hours a day working on them, and then I'd go to work and then come back. And we do a farmer's market once a week. We had a couple restaurants. We sold to Circa down in Casanova when she was in Casanova.
Yeah.
She was our first. I take that back. Second, we sold to the Copper Turret in Morrisville. Was our first restaurant.
Did they close?
No, they're still open.
Okay.
But they are they're run by Morrisville State College.
That's right.
So it's all student run. So they do kind of close when the students are gone. But,
okay.
So the chef there was excited and would take everything that we grew, and I think I totally overwhelmed him. I mean, I was learning this business too. Like, if a chef told me that now, I'd in the interest of a long-term relationship, I would try to temper him a bit.
Yeah.
But I think we overwhelmed him. But so anyway, we were doing this on the side, selling to some restaurants, selling to some farmers markets. And after doing that for about 5 years, 5 or 6 years, we had an opportunity to actually dive into it a bit more, and went to some seminars on the West Coast, and it really just it fit. It kind of fit, I would say, our lifestyle. It kind of fit, my personality, which is more of the laboratory work as opposed to digging in the dirt kind of work.
Yeah.
So we also loved, after our experience with pigs, we loved the fact that, you can grow mushrooms and, you can go away for the weekend. It's no problem.
Yeah. How much attention do they need?
So we have some automated systems. It's great if you can check on things once a day if you're gone.
Okay.
But it's not the end of the world, if you miss a day.
Yeah.
Just like in anything, things could go wrong, but generally speaking, you could go away on a Friday and come back on a Sunday night, and as long as you're prepared a little bit, you'd be fine.
That's cool.
So my wife loved that part of it. I did too.
Yeah, because when you have pigs, I was just saying before we started, Rebecca and I had to go to Virginia over the weekend, and granted, it's they live an hour and a half away, and they meet us halfway, so it's not bad. But we have our dog Buddy, and we can bring him to her parents, and her dad's a veterinarian, so that works out great, right? But if you have pigs, what are you gonna do if you have to go away?
You gotta beg someone to help you out, and that gets old really quick. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's when we had young kids. Our kids are older now. If we were forcing them to take care of the pigs, they would revolt on us, I'm sure. So we had the opportunity to actually dive into this a bit more and actually build a grow room, a year-round grow room.
That's cool.
So our cycle is different than most farms.
Yeah.
We do grow year-round. So obviously that's, cash flow year-round.
Yeah.
Also, we do have one employee, and we can offer year-round employment.
That's awesome.
As well. So
do you do that through a hoop house or?
No, it's a concrete build. Well, it's not concrete, but it's steel and concrete.
Yeah.
And very little wood because of the high humidities.
Yeah.
And so it's just insulated, heated. We have a humidification system. We have a ventilation system that's always bringing in oxygen. Mushrooms are, they take in CO2 and give off, they take in O2 and give off CO2 like we do.
Okay.
So to prevent that buildup, we're always bringing in more oxygen. And,
Yeah.
From the outside, it just looks like a steel building.
That's wild.
So we had the opportunity to do that, and always wanted to do some sort of farming. Wanted my own business. Found a product that people were excited about, and we could sell profitably, and it was unique, and growing it was stimulating, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it took some. It's all kind of trial and error. There's no blueprint on how to put together a mushroom farm.
Yeah.
So as we're trialing different species, we're constantly problem solving, and so it's just intellectually stimulating, I guess. Kind of all those things together have really driven us in that direction, and so we dove in about 2015 is when we started really shipping mushrooms, doing it full time.
That's awesome.
My wife works, so it's my full time job.
Okay.
She works
Yeah. Or most of your, you sell a lot retail.
Long answer to your question.
No,
I guess,
man.
But,
yeah, I really am fascinated by it because it's like you said, it's not like there's. I mean, I'm sure there is, but it's not like there's 1,000, mushroom farmers out there that have some huge community that you can jump on.
No, there's not, and that's true. I mean, just having basic questions where there might be. There's lots of other vegetable farmers or beef farmers or dairy farmers, where you can get some information, or even the extension agents, you can get some information from them that really isn't true for mushrooms. So you're doing a lot of your own problem solving.
Yeah.
You have to be kind of aggressive with your networking, right? I mean, there are people out there in other states and other areas, but it's just harder to build relationships when you're talking about hundreds of miles away.
Yeah. Is there like a big area in the U.S. that's like known for mushrooms?
Depends on what variety you're talking about.
Okay.
Southeast Pennsylvania, towards
really?
Philly, is like the mushroom capital of the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But millions of pounds of buttons in portobellos.
Okay.
They do some shiitake, some oysters.
Yeah.
Some different specialty mushrooms.
Yeah.
But and that brings us to another why question. The varieties that we do are perishable.
Yeah.
Right, and some of them are fragile.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are really perishable. Some of them have a little bit better shelf life.
Isn't lion's mane like here today, gone tomorrow? So like screw with it and you're
it's
done.
One of the more perishable ones.
Yeah.
It also bruises real easy. So when you're thinking of shipping and handling and bouncing around in trucks, and it doesn't do great with that kind of situation. So buttons, portobellos are different. So these are strains that have been worked with for 100+ years. Shiitake only came into the country in the late 70s.
Really?
So it hasn't even been around very long.
Wow.
So these strains really have been developed, just like strains of tomatoes that can be shipped all over the world. These strains have been developed, so you can grow millions of pounds in Pennsylvania, distribute them all over the country.
Yeah.
You try and take a lion's mane or an oyster mushroom and kind of jam it into that same model. Mm-hmm. The qualities of the product aren't really there, and so now you're left with oyster mushrooms on the shelf that are eating themselves, right? They're all kind of falling apart. They're all fuzzy, and that's basically what they're doing. They're eating themselves.
Yeah.
Or shiitakes that, they're kind of flat and they look like they've gone through hell. But
yeah.
So that, input our farm, who is growing those varieties and can deliver them to the end user, within a few days of picking, without the shipping, and so we can deliver it at a little higher quality, which we can then say, all right, now it's a little higher price, right? We can't compete in terms of volume and pricing with these huge farms in Pennsylvania, but
Right.
we can beat their quality and so we can survive growing thousands of pounds of mushrooms a year instead of millions of pounds of mushrooms a year.
Yeah.
So it really is really a perfect local product.
Yeah.
So I mean that's another reason why, because it kind of insulates us a little bit from the big grocery stores and the big farms down in Pennsylvania.
So, I mean, with having the actually, I'm gonna reset the camera real quick.
Sure.
I said it. I had the guys from Full Bore on the podcast. Actually, what's today? Thursday. They
Yeah.
were here Tuesday. It's been crazy week. I was telling them like I can't get over how much. I mean, obviously tourism in Hawaii, but I can't get over how much everything on the internet and there. If you're there, if you type in one thing like an H into Google, all of a sudden your Facebook is just flooded with ads for tourist activities. But the other thing is, they get that it's touristy, right? I mean, the entire all of their economy is like tourism for the most part, and everybody knows it. And so, if you type in like best burgers in Kona, you're going to get 30 different results of different blogs that are, best top 5, top 10, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was there, I was just like, we don't really have much of that in Syracuse, if any of that in Syracuse, of like, here's your top 5 diners, top 5 coffee shops, top 5 whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really rely on tourism here, right? But we also don't have anything to really build tourism either,
Yeah.
I mean, sure, we've got the mall and we have SU and stuff like that, but we don't have a whole lot of like media attention that's geared for drawing out of towners besides the I Love New York stuff.
Right.
And that's not really like a local,
Yeah, that's a whole state.
Yeah. So we brought on Chris Malone part-time, like side hustle part-time, and we're just going to start.
That's one of your goals is to do that.
Yeah. I started on the flight back home. I started a Excel spreadsheet, and I just typed in best diners in Syracuse and went down all the ones that it listed, and those were the ones included. I took their Google star rating, their Yelp, and their TripAdvisor, took the average, and then sorted them from highest to lowest. And whoever the top 5 is, according to online reviews, that's who's going in the blog as the top 5. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert on food. I do it for like best tacos in May. I run around and try all of them and say who I think the best is. But I couldn't think of a more fair way. Now that we work with 120 restaurants, I can't think of a more fair way than just saying, it's the top 5 rated online. Those are the top 5 we're going to put in the blog. So.
Right. You don't want it to be Anthony's top 5.
Yeah, exactly. Because then, people could pay for it to try and get a higher rating. I could just say, well, I've done the marketing for the Market Diner for the last 4 years, so obviously they're going to be the best,
Yeah.
So
you did diners. Did you do anything else?
So to start with, I gave him, he's going to start at like 2 or 3 blogs a month. And I gave him a list of like coffee shops, diners. One I just typed, actually this one was pretty interesting. He and I both, from different parts of like town, just typed in the best restaurants in Syracuse just to see what would come up. And the differences in the results are wild. I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
who knows if it's location based, if it's algorithm because they know who we are, whatever it is. But my top 5 were wildly different from each other. It was like, I think Lemongrass was in there, then Alto Cinco, and then Mom's Diner was in. They were so different from each other. So we may put out a blog that's like, we searched the top restaurants in Syracuse on Monday at 3:40, and these were the results. And then, next Friday at noon, here's the results, But but just trying to do that, just trying to get some sort of tourism thing, like that people can come in town and Google what's the best diner in Syracuse, and hopefully they'll find our website and pop up on it and go to one of those places. But we're also going to change to Eat Local New York, and so
okay, we actually we're also Fruit of the Fungi's under New York Mushroom Company.
Oh, okay,
that's
cool.
probably the same idea. I mean, we're trying to be. I mean, we started in Hamilton. Mm-hmm. Now we're kind of central New York, and we're building a new building this year. At some point, our reach gets a little bigger, and that's
yeah.
But anyway, continue. I mean, it's probably the same kind of idea. You want broaden your reach a bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've always I've wanted to do Eat Local Western New York, Rochester, North Country, Southern Tier, whatever. Mm-hmm. My brother Gabe and his family live down in Rockland County, and so a little over a year ago, he and I were talking, and yada yada yada. We start Eat Local Rockland, and exact same model. Just Gabe's he's got 4 kids, and him and his wife work full-time jobs, so they're not running out to eat at all these different places all the time like I have the time to. So. Yeah. But we had like a dozen restaurants down there, maybe a little less on the card, that accepted it. We sold 2 cards last year down in Rockland. And it's such a stupid,
You still doing it?
We're still doing it. That card expired in December of this past year. We haven't renewed the card yet, because what happened is I'm at Buy Local Bash with our booth.
Yeah.
This woman approaches the table. This is such a cool idea. I want to buy a card. Do you have any cards? Do you have any restaurants downstate? I was like, well, we have Eat Local Rockland, but, yada, yada, yada. She's like, oh, I live in Rockland County.
Huh.
It's like, oh, that's cool. I said, well, send me your address. When you get home, message me, and I'll mail you an Eat Local Rockland card. It's only good for another month, but use it.
Yeah. Tell your friends.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got home, and that night I was thinking, why don't we just have one card that can work all over the state?
Right.
Still sell it for $20. Try and get restaurants all over to be on the one card. And then this way we can market downstate for people that are coming up, wherever in the state. We can really, I'm sure for the first year, because it'll take forever to really build influence in Buffalo and Rochester, and to get restaurants to kind of know who we are. And want to join the card. But at the very least, maybe we can market to people that are coming to Syracuse from Buffalo or wherever, and get them to buy a card while they're here, whatever the case is. But so we're going to start that. I don't know when, but eventually we're going to start doing that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, there may be some ways to, try and personalize the card a little bit to some areas, but still have a general New York State. I mean, instead of making one for each area.
Right. Yeah. So I will say it was when we first started just the Instagram account for Rockland, we got roasted from people in that area, other Instagrammers. People were blocking us. They were going to restaurants and saying, these guys are trying to scam you. You should block them from Instagram. And I get it. It's scary, for somebody who's got a business, that's doing social media for a restaurant.
Okay.
Because, there's not much loyalty in the industry. There is some, but not a lot, not on a grand scale. Yeah. And if you find somebody that pops up that takes a better picture than you, your client might leave and go with it. Who knows?
Right.
It's all based on promised results.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when we do things for free for restaurants. So any of the restaurants that are on the card, it's free for them to join. And any one of these restaurants can call me at any point and say, I want you to come take pictures for our menu. It's free.
Okay.
Can you come do a promo video? Sure, it's free. I'm about to do one for Recess on Saturday.
So you had pushback from people who were getting paid to do this for,
right.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And, we were we had a couple interesting phone calls with pretty aggressive people. Like I'm up here, I'm up here with this, talking to this guy who just sounds like he's straight from Brooklyn,
Sure.
and just roasting me, on the phone and all this.
We haven't gone downstate. I've had friends who've gotten burned downstate.
Yeah.
Things like, you're a small producer, you ship stuff down there and they don't want to pay you. What are you going to do?
Right.
Right. I mean, and I've had lots of people get burned that way. But for us, I mean, we mentioned that Philadelphia is the mushroom capital of the world.
Yeah.
So you've got this huge influx of mushrooms downstate, and they're a lot of them are already organic, and technically they're regional or local.
Yeah.
And so do they have a big motivation to pay, extra for ours coming from 300 miles away? Not really.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure most of our growth has been through, creating relationships, and then that chef opens his own place, and now you sell there, and or a sous chef goes to another restaurant, and now you sell there, and so that's kind of how our growth has been. And so I'm sure if I, wanted to drive down to New York City once a week, I probably could create some relationships. But for us anyway, I mean, especially starting out, you hear that, bring them downstate, and I prefer to stay in this area.
Yeah.
Hasn't worked out as great as a lot of people tell you it does, but for us anyway. But
depends on what you want,
I know other mushroom farmers up in central New York who drive down and do a farmer's market in New York every week.
Wow.
I mean, it seems like that's not really where I want to be right now.
Right.
But for them, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure it can work.
Yeah.
The retail, probably the retail's a little higher down there, and obviously a lot of people. So
So what's the biggest challenge with the growth of the business? Is it in my head, I kind of view it as the education piece.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you do get a lot of people who are, I mean, American as a whole is mycophobic, right? I mean, we're not like Asian cultures that are really into mushrooms. So you do have that challenge, especially when you get into dried mushrooms. That's a whole nother level of scariness for people. But at the same time, it's growing. Yeah. And generally, I don't know exactly how many people you have in like the greater Syracuse area.
Yeah.
But generally people eat about 4 pounds of mushrooms a year, I believe, on average.
Okay.
And about a pound of that is specialty mushrooms, and so you're looking at, if there's 300,000-400,000 people in the greater central New York area, I mean, a decent amount of mushrooms.
Yeah.
And so we grow. Last year, I think we grew somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000 pounds. So there's plenty of demand out there. It's the challenges for a lot of farms are how do you get your product to the people efficiently.
Yeah.
And I would say that Madison County and central New York probably. Well, we'll just stick with central New York is lacking in that, if you have a chef that comes from the West Coast, they would call up their local food co-op and get this from this local farmer and this from this local farmer and this, and it would all come delivered in the same, by the same truck.
Yeah.
We don't have that around here.
Yeah.
And
we did.
We've had who are you referring to?
I forget the name of the business, but that one guy.
Oh Neil. Neil.
Yeah.
And he couldn't make it work for whatever reason. I don't know all the details. And we did sell some stuff through him, but but it's, ingrained in it's tough to give up your customers, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, of all the local people, all the local farmers in the greater central New York area, had one person deliver for them, it would work.
Yeah.
And probably would create a lot of demand. It's ease.
Mm-hmm.
One payment for restaurants, one delivery, one order for restaurants.
Yeah.
Right. Right now, if they want to do it, they've got to talk to 15. Especially if they want it all over their menu.
That's like the Tim at the Tailor and the Cook. He's got 98 different. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he would appreciate a streamlined ordering process. So, for whatever reason, it hasn't worked around here.
Yeah.
So, getting your product to the customer, whether that's a restaurant or a direct retail sale, is always a challenge. For us too, it's not like maybe a more traditional business where it's sell more, buy more, sell more, buy more.
Yeah.
For us, it's produce more,
right?
Produce more, sell more. So you're always trying to match that demand with production, with, you don't want to produce too much that you're throwing stuff away. You don't want to produce too little that you're telling customers that are coming to you, I can't deliver to you, or you're not delivering on a regular basis. And you also don't have a huge bank account to dig into every time you want to build a new building to produce more. So,
right.
So for us, we haven't really done, we don't really knock on doors.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I would rather have a little extra in a week, and service everybody that we are delivering to well.
Yeah.
Right. Make sure we have it for them every week. It's a good quality product. If they need to take a week off, it's no big deal. If they have, something extra special, like they have a really busy weekend, they need extra shipment, we can do it.
Yeah.
And so for us, we've probably tempered growth a bit to make sure that we can do that.
Yeah.
And really create, a good brand and a good reputation.
Yeah.
And so for us, I would say the biggest difficulty is trying to grow, but also service everybody well. And when I say grow, that's like, that's, spending. It's expensive to grow.
Yeah.
And so while we probably, if we had twice as many mushrooms, could sell them, not everybody's in a position to just double their production on their farm, right? So,
right.
So, at some point we'll get there, but it's always exciting to me when we do have extra production and I can go out and sell it, and so growing, at a reasonable rate, growing smartly, is probably the hardest part for me, because everybody wants to dive in with the brand, the new toys and the buildings and you could probably easily spend $500,000 and get a pretty sizable mushroom operation up and running. And but is that the best way to do it without having all your markets and your brand and your reputation established? And so it's probably a lot of the struggles that a lot of farmers who are trying to come off the historically commodity farming situation and really do something different and sell directly to consumer and restaurants. And you're doing a lot of little dances, learning new skills all over the place, and trying to figure out, how this works and how this works and how this works. You're producing, you're marketing, you're distributing, you're billing, you're doing bookkeeping, all those kind of things that historically farmers weren't interested in doing. And you always hear of that adage that farmers, they just want to be on the land and growing. And for us, that's not really true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my favorite part is marketing.
Really?
Actually getting out there and talking to the people, whether that's at farmers markets or talking to restaurants and marketing and selling and getting people excited about what we're doing is always thrilling for me. And even more so than, mixing substrates and inoculating blocks. Well, that's not awful. I enjoy it, but
right.
So
What's your what's the most coveted mushroom that you grow?
We sell a lot of shiitake, probably by volume. That's our highest.
Okay.
We are getting. We've done a lot of hen of the woods or maitake, which is a harder mushroom to grow. It's very specific temperatures and humidities and oxygen levels to make it look right.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that. We're doing fairly well. I mean, we have on and off weeks.
Yeah.
But so when we have it, that one's in demand. King Trumpet is a really dense mushroom, has a lot of flavor to it. People make faux scallops out of it.
Oh, that's cool.
You can peel it and almost make like a vegan barbecue out of it.
Oh, nice.
Like a pulled pork. Almost.
Yeah.
So that one is again one that requires really specific temperatures to grow, and so I would say those two, the trumpets and the maitakes, are probably the most or the easiest to sell.
Yeah.
But by volume is probably shiitake.
Yeah. Is there a mushroom that is the most expensive that you wish you could, you would be a wealthy man if you could just spend your time growing it?
Well, so that brings us into the whole world of wild mushrooms.
Yeah.
And that's probably a whole nother podcast in itself.
Yeah. What is a wild? So wild mushroom would be is a morel? Is that wild mushroom? Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of your expensive mushrooms, so morels, all your truffles, all your chanterelles, porcini, and you get into different things like black trumpets, and I mean the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons they're expensive is because they're all handpicked somewhere. There are very few. There are a few truffle plantations where they're actually inoculating the roots. There's actually one in Skinny Atlas. I don't know if they've had success yet.
Really?
But they're doing
I thought truffles had to be found by pigs in France or something like that.
So, well, they do.
Yeah.
They use dogs now.
Okay.
So what they're doing is they are taking hazelnut trees, oak trees, where they're typically found. They make these mycelial slurries.
Okay.
And then they dip the roots in them. And then they plant them.
Wow.
Under the right soil conditions. A lot of money goes into amending soils. And then wait 8, 10, 12 years and hope that you get truffles. And then what you do is you bring your dog out that's been trained to sniff truffles, and he sniffs it and he barks, and you dig it up.
Yeah.
And you sell it. And there's not the really expensive ones, like your Alba Whites and your Perigords, and they will mature in November, December.
Okay.
And so around here, the ground will freeze and it'll kill them. So that's down south. There is a Burgundy truffle which is a type of summer truffle that matures more like October-ish.
Okay.
And so that's one that you could potentially grow up here. I don't know of, like I said, that one place down in Skinny Atlas. I'm not sure if they've had success or not.
Yeah.
At one point it was for sale, but
that's wild.
So, if you could really perfect a truffle orchard, you probably could make a lot of money. But But at the same time, it's like ostrich farming, right? I mean, the people who start it sell a lot of ostriches to other people who want to do ostrich farms, right? And make some money. But then the guy at the end is left with all these ostriches and he's not making any money. So a lot of truffle farms, I believe, have really subsisted in selling truffles to other people. Mm-hmm. You know, if you work out the numbers, I mean, there's some money in it, but so that creates some demand for truffle trees. But at some point, someone's got to harvest and sell truffles, or else the whole thing falls apart. So, but other than that, I mean, I think, there's different. I would be happy if we could get lots of hen of the woods. Yeah. I think we could make a pretty good living if we could get that mushroom, get it going regularly, and again solve distribution problems and such. But, yeah.
So if there's one thing that you wish the general public, non-mushroom aficionado, knew about specialty mushrooms, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, these mushrooms, they come in all sorts of different flavors and textures. Yeah. I think that people are, afraid to dive in sometimes, just because they have some fear of mushrooms. A lot of kids don't like mushrooms. My kids don't like mushrooms, and you grow up and I think it's one of those foods where your palate changes, and if you have this ingrained fear of it, you got to get over it and try it. And we hear it all over and over at the markets where people are like, and then they come back and it was great. And, I'm sure there's some people who are hemming and hawing and they're like, it was okay, or they didn't like it and they don't come back. Yeah. And that's fine. I mean, if you, but why not give something a try if maybe you love it? Yeah. Right. Right. So what do you have to lose? Yeah. So I think that, from our experience selling, if you have 10 people, maybe three to four of them are interested in mushrooms. Yeah. But I definitely think that if you had all 10 of those people actually give them a shot, it'd probably be more like 7 or 8. Yeah. So I think that's, it's kind of simple, but
just try them.
Yeah, just try them.
Yeah.
It's
you're not gonna die.
Yeah.
Well, where can people find you?
The regional market in Syracuse.
Cool.
Every Saturday. Yeah. Year round. So like I said, our schedule is a little different. We actually pick up business in the winter and slow down in the summer a bit, and it's because we're one of the few fresh things that are out there in the middle of winter. Yeah. Fresh local things. In the summertime, you've got a good selection of local foods. In the wintertime, it dries up a bit. Yeah. We're there year round. Fruitofthefungi.com is our website. You can order some of the dried stuff on there. Cool. We have stores throughout central New York and Utica and Hamilton, and that carry both our fresh and dried stuff.
And you're on Facebook and Instagram, right?
Yeah. Facebook, cool. Instagram, New York Mushrooms on Instagram. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to start calling out restaurants because I'm sure I'll forget some, and I don't want to go there. Yeah. But we have probably a dozen or so restaurants that we service in Madison County and Utica and Syracuse. Cool. So look on their menus. A lot of them list us on their menus.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, listen, thanks for driving all the way out here tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
This. Yeah, appreciate it.
No problem.